than what we were seeing earlier. So we are back
Okay.
on live. So I know, the initial starting was a little, but I think hopefully there won't be any other disruption going forward. So we were talking about Naveen. Give you a little bit of introduction about yourself, and we'll take it forward from there.
So, thanks again for having me here. Hello, everyone. I am Naveen Kumar,
Absolutely, my
founder,
pleasure.
and are we still getting some lag, or you're getting it
I think so.
correct?
I think so. I think so. But that's okay. Let's continue. Yeah.
Okay. So, for your viewers, I'm Naveen Kumar, founder and CEO of Truxt.AI. We help enterprises get enabled on generative AI, and I'll go and talk about some of our learnings and details as and when this session progresses. I would love to make it more interactive, so feel free to put your questions or comments in chat, and we'll go through some of those questions as well. Fine.
So Naveen, why don't you tell a little bit about your background? Like, how did you even start Trust AI, and even before that, right? I mean, like, what was your background like in the IT industry, etc.?
Sure. So, for the last 8 plus years, I have been in this DevOps industry, and I have worked on the dev side of DevOps, ops side of DevOps, as well as a little bit of sec side of DevOps. So dev sec ops is what I have worked in for the last 3 years and a half, predominantly on the operations side. And operations side is always very fascinating for a couple of reasons. One, a lot about company platform or company offerings depend on operations, uh, how well the end users are going to access it. And the second part of it is really complicated.
Hmm.
It might look like relatively simpler, but it is very complicated, and there are so many challenges. So those were some of the learnings I had, and then um, ChatGPT happened.
Yeah.
And I was already at a point where I thought there are so many tasks. It's beyond humans to just keep monitoring at all those incidents, keeping a track of all the logs. So machines are needed somewhere. And working with some of the major clients, seeing those problems every day, seeing that production is down, and you'll be surprised to know that uh, more than 75% of enterprises typically have a mean time of a resolution which is more than an hour.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
So if there is a problem, that problem typically takes more than hour. So
Hmm.
for that time, you are not only getting no business, but you're getting bad mouthing on Twitter and elsewhere as well as an organization. And this is very expensive. For many of these enterprises, it costs more than $1 million per hour of outage.
Hmm.
And then uh, it requires a lot of
Hmm.
effort to make things work. So, all these put together with generative AI picking up, I figured out there is a way we can solve this problem. And hence, I started this journey a year and a half ago.
So beautiful, right? So your DevOps background, you're able to see like the problems close enough, right? I see you have been like part of like different organizations. I was just going through your LinkedIn, and I see before Truxt AI you have been part of Code Climate, Armory, Accenture, Aqua Security, Eggplant, Cognizant, 12 years. So you have seen customers very closely, right? You have seen the pain points a lot. And so when you say recovery time, right? RTO versus RPO, I think. So 1 hour recovery time and millions of dollars wasted during that 1 hour, right? So there is
Yep.
definitely a gap that you are able to see that you can fulfill and bring down that 1 hour to what is the benchmark that you're looking at this point of time, right? Whatever the technology is, I know like we are going to jump into generative AI, but I'm just thinking like
Yeah.
irrespective of the technology, like what is the goal that you're trying to kind of like, or the gap that you're trying to close?
The objective is so the end game. I would love to have, and ideal is an autonomous
Okay.
SRE where you have a self-healing systems where uh, AI understands different parts of your system and can help you take more informed decision.
Hmm.
So the mean time to resolution can be significantly faster than 1 hour or a day or more. So that definitely is one objective, or I'll say the bigger goal. But this is um, this is like an ocean.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So you'll have to boil a lot many things to make it happen. And yes, on this journey, but we are getting success bit by bit in automating little bit of pieces, consolidating everything together to make it better and better for different deployment
So that
processes.
is fantastic, right? I mean, so you mentioned this is an ocean. So there are like so many parts of that SRE. You mentioned also autonomous SRE, and you also mentioned like mean time. So there are, since there are so many parts of this layer, what is that particular area that you're trying to hit, which gives you most bang for the buck, which brings down that mean time to recovery?
I think if you ask about one most important solution, that will be just doing root cause analysis.
Okay.
What has caused this problem? If I can figure that piece out first, that's a big benefit. But again, DevOps or SRE is all, or operations altogether is a very big
Hmm.
piece. We are taking a very small
Makes
subset of it,
sense.
which is the continuous deployment
Mhm.
part using Argo CD, and then how can you use some of the other deployment tools more effectively? For example, open source Argo CD or Spinnaker or Fluxes of the world. So that's one part we are very specifically
So that
focused
is
on to
that is
solve.
the part that you specialize in, and which are like open source products which you support as an enterprise, what do you say, like a provider of solutions, something like that. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And your
that's
goal
right.
as an organization or a CEO of this organization, your goal is to kind of like narrow down that cause, right? Why did the problem happen? Of course, like once I understand the cause, we know how to solve the problem. But do you, based on what I'm hearing, is like you feel that most of the time is spent over there, like just to understand, hey, what happened and where is the problem coming from? Is that correct?
A
Yeah,
lot.
okay. I've seen that also.
War
Like
rooms are
I
very
can relate
common.
to that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I've seen like I've seen AMI calls where 50 people are joining and then sitting over here just to understand the problem. So I can relate to that. Yeah, perfect. Even let's move ahead. I mean, this is beautiful.
cool. So I actually wanted to discuss things in three
Okay.
phases, and typically for an enterprise, how our journey started to what made us take different steps in where we wanted to go, and this 1.5 year has taught a lot to us. I remember just putting a wrapper around ChatGPT, and then there was an open source GPT for all, and threw in some documents, and it started giving us amazing results. We were so
Mhm.
happy about it, and I found that this technology just works like magic. And then, as and when we started increasing data contents, it started hallucinating, it started
I was
grumbling.
actually
So we
about to
went,
come to that hallucination, but you already covered. Okay, let's see like how you're solving that hallucination problem. But
sure. So,
not only hallucination. Continue. Your thought process. Yeah.
right. So, so that was one
Hmm.
important part. The learning was started very small. We kept building on it, and we kept failing because just wrap it around ChatGPT or any of those LLMs does not work.
Hmm.
Um, then we realized there are multiple factors which play a big role in making generative AI success in your organization. And I would love to share with your viewers that part.
Absolutely.
And then we will take a step into what progress has happened to make some of those issues go away, or at least, to a certain extent. And then we will go into how the world looks like from software operations or SRE side. Does
Yeah,
that sound
sounds
good?
good. Amazing. Yeah.
Perfect. So let me share my screen. So I hope you all can see my desktop.
1 second. Shared your screen, show on stream. Yeah, this particular rest stream is something that I'm also navigating first time. But yeah, now I can see your desktop.
Uh-huh. So these are three things we'll be covering. One is a very brief introduction about what we do specifically and how do we do it. I know I have already covered a bit of it in our introduction, so we'll quickly go through it.
Mhm.
I will talk about some of the major challenges we found working with enterprises, which they face every day, and how can we overcome some of those
Okay.
challenges? What were some of the important success factors? And then we'll go towards a step towards how can we make autonomous SRE, and we'll take all the
Awesome.
questions.
Okay. Perfect.
Fine.
Yep.
So about us, we are a startup found 1.5 years ago. We serve on all major technologies, on all cloud, and with almost all closed source and open source
Hmm.
LLMs. And we are recognized as top 10 F6S generative AI startups in New York State region. Here are some of the organizations I have worked with in my past to help them um, do better on DevOps and operations. Two things predominantly which we work or which we bring to industries. One is enterprise grade generative AI adoption, and DevOps GPT is our DevOps platform, which is catering towards automation of a lot of software reliability engineering practices. The reason we had no intention to get started with enterprise grade knowledge base, just that for anything great you need to do in enterprise with respect to generative AI, that becomes de facto for you.
Mm.
So a very basic foundation level generative AI, which is like you are connecting to different data sources. Yes, you are adding RAG to it, which is more specific to your enterprise, but again, kind of data sources. You have a fine tuned or a pre trained or a generic purpose
Hmm.
LLM. And then you have a chatbot through which you interact and try to interact with all the contents you have. And typically, we found that in an enterprise, you have 90% of your contents, which are all unstructured
Yeah,
data.
mostly. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, this is where we started with, because this was one thing we had to make it very good. If you don't have this piece very good, a lot many things which you want to build upon does not work. And for that, we try to create a knowledge hub. We try to get different kind of data,
Hmm.
connect to different kind of sources of data. And then we started training our LLM to make sure that it serves on all those types of files or types of data. And then you have a end user chatbot through which you can interact. So this is a foundation which we initially were not thinking of building, but look like is a prerequisite
I
for
see.
us to do.
Okay. Okay.
And an interesting aspect, Ujjwal, is um, a lot many enterprises today already have it. A lot many enterprises I speak with, they already have chatbots, and they have put it on their data because of Gen AI hype, you can say,
The last
or
two
because of the
years.
push
Yeah.
they're getting
The
from,
last 2 years. Correct. Yeah.
yeah, uh, because of the leadership push. So we most organizations today I speak to have an enterprise grade chatbot.
Hmm.
The only question is whether that works, that's well adopted or not, is where the success lies. And we
So
found that,
if you can go back to your previous slide. So summary
mhm,
over here is even for your DevOps. By the way, like for DevOps, there are already some standards, some tooling that are already available. You already mentioned that. I think your specialization
Right.
over here is you're talking about DevOps GPT, wherein you can go to the root cause analysis as quickly as possible. And in order for your DevOps GPT to actually work, it it can only work if you have this enterprise grade foundation that is created, because your DevOps GPT is going to work on top of it.
Right. So a foundation level Gen AI has to be very,
Very, very. So
very good at this
now
point
the
when you
next
start
thing that you
training an
mentioned was,
organization.
and I'm taking like close attention, right? So next thing that you mentioned was
Mhm.
training the LLMs to kind of like match or give you accurate results, right? And that's where you're trying to resolve the hallucination problem. So can we quickly talk about like training the LLMs? What does it really mean? I mean, like maybe not in the broader context, but in a very specific context of Truxt.AI. What does that training really mean?
Sure.
And then if an organization has to adapt that, what do they have to do in order to train that LLM?
Right. So I'll take a step back. And what is the objective of training? The objective of training is to make sure my users get right responses or
Absolutely.
accurate
No
responses, right?
hallucinations. Like whatever I
And
want, I get it, right?
yeah,
So even if I give an ambiguous question, hopefully it reasons and helps us narrow down to the exact answer, right? Something like that.
precisely. And I'll kind of skip this slide. I think this is a bit generic, and most of your viewers might know that strategic alignment, data quality, and some of
Okay.
those. Getting into specific, what I find is something. So ultimately, you have to improve the quality of responses. There are different perspectives to it. You should have fine tuning, or you should have
Hmm.
RAG with the with the right set of data. You should have knowledge graph. These all increase accuracy, right?
Okay.
But there is one thing which is very consistent. How much ever fine tuning or anything you do, if your data is not cleaned, if your data is not prepared properly, you will always have this problem. And this is the biggest problem I have found across organizations. What they have done is they have scraped data, they have put that together, and then they have put a wrap around ChatGPT. And the end result is it is giving responses, but the responses are not that good. Those are hallucinating. So this is the biggest reason why I see most of the organizations or many of the projects, Gen AI projects, have failed. Get that data quality right is the first step. Then the other
Isn't that
part,
a
I
huge initiative, like an organization wide initiative, not a siloed little project over here?
uh, it has to start
Okay.
somewhere, right? And see what changes are required. For example, if you create a data
Hmm.
repository and you throw in everything, every piece of unstructured data you have,
It's
it's
not
not going
going
to
to work.
work.
Yeah.
Different versions of content, your response will be as good as the content it gets from that
Correct.
repository, right?
Yep.
So if my version 1 and version 2 contents are mixed, LLM is not going to figure out whether it's version 1 response or should be a version 2
Correct.
response. It will give just a response and that will not work.
So,
So
one more question related to this. And since we are talking about DevOps, and since we're talking about, let's say, a production issue, right? I have a production issue
Mhm,
and I need to understand the root cause. Typically, the way a developer would go over here, like, okay, someone from the monitoring team will engage the management, and then a developer will get involved. I'll start looking at the logs.
mhm.
Logs are
Yes.
semi-structured, right? Semi-structured log data. So that's where we kind of like typically start. When you say the data preparation, are you talking about the log data, or are you talking about any data as such, like overall? Because do I need a product procedures and policies to kind of like resolve a DevOps GPT problem?
Yes, it's a mix of
Okay.
all. So, of course, so uh, So just taking a
Mm-hmm.
step back, imagine you have a product or a platform. And if we can take example from DevOps itself, let's say
Okay.
Kubernetes. Kubernetes, there are amazing set of Kubernetes documents
Okay.
written. So that's one set of data which you need to collect.
Mm-hmm.
There are great set of trainings available, all in YouTube, all in different training materials.
Mm-hmm.
Consume that data as well. Kubernetes has an amazing Slack community. There
Mm-hmm.
are so many problems solved there every day.
Mm-hmm.
But then just taking that data and putting it in your database is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to really segregate what questions, what were the perspectives of those questions, which of those questions were answered, what were those which were some of those questions which were not answered properly, and then there is a mechanism to figure it out.
So it's
So
not only just
it
a generic set of data, right? So you are okay. So here is what I'm understanding, right? So if I'm supporting a Kubernetes platform, I need to create a knowledge base which is like everything related to the Kubernetes platform, whether it's help articles, whether it's Slack, whether it's whatever, Stack Overflow, all the community. So you're bringing the public as well as the private data all together into one knowledge base, and that helps resolve the problem. Okay.
right. Precisely. So that data set has to contain relevant data from all the available sources. And that is very important in our case.
Hmm.
Why? Because if I go to ChatGPT and I ask a question about, hey, here is a problem I'm facing, um, it will give you that answer with the same weight as if you ask, um, how can I prepare a very specific type of tea?
Hmm.
It does not differentiate between
Correct.
the two. Of course, context and all come into picture, or history and all come into picture, where it can do a bit of personalized
Hmm.
tutoring to you. But in general, it does not differentiate. And then if you look at data which is available, which is being taken by many of these LLMs, um, are very generic data available across
Hmm.
web. These generic data will produce wrong answers. And that's why, at this point of time, if you just go and ask a question, it might not solve. So, what we are doing is we are actually creating a massive repository of data, which is curated,
Hmm.
clean data from DevOps and surrounding technologies. And again, DevOps is huge. We are taking um, very specific set of information. We have started with Argo. Argo, we already have. Linkerd, we already have. And I'll show you some of the demos, how this becomes, really different. But yeah, that's overall what I'm
No,
trying to do.
beautiful. I think that makes perfect sense. So now, when I, as a developer, go in that production call and I'm looking at logs versus your platform can bring in that logs versus all the other context related to that particular technology and the technology stack.
Yes. And I would like to
Yeah,
show you
absolutely.
something.
Yeah. Feel free to. Yeah.
Just one important piece. I mean, we talk about data, and today, if we do not talk about MCP, will
Oh,
make
yeah.
this session not covered well.
Absolutely. Everyone
And
is talking about MCP.
MCP,
In fact, like I spent like a
and
weekend
indeed,
on trying to understand MCP and did some POCs. Yeah, go ahead.
it's it's an amazing technology, and there is a reason why OpenAI also wants to um, contribute and use MCP for the broader adoption. So this is amazing, and like it very simply says, model context protocol, meaning there's a protocol which will help your model provide better context. So this helps us integrate among different sources seamlessly. And at the same time, now you will be able to provide a more relevant context to a model before getting a response.
Hmm.
So it's the technology is amazing. We started, we have built our servers. We are finding it really good, but this again has its own flaws, and it will take some time until all the servers which are going to be supported on MCP are built. So that will be taking some time, but this is a very interesting thing. If people have not looked at it, it's a must consider
So
solution, I would
let's
say.
talk about since you brought up MCP, and maybe if we can spend few more minutes on MCP. I know like you have a lot of things to share, but let's talk about
Mhm.
MCP. What is an MCP? So is and I did some my own research, but I'll start from the very beginning, right? I already have, you know, a product, whether it's Google Drive or whether it's OneDrive or whatever, right? Where your documents are stored, and then
Mhm.
those products have given their APIs. I can write a Java code or a Python code to extract documents from that particular product, which is Google Drive, using their APIs. Why do I need an MCP?
That's a great question. And look at again the section of the MCP itself. So it's model, context, and protocol. So first thing as and I'll keep it very
Mhm.
simple than complicating it. Uh, it's a protocol which brings in context to a model which you're using. So currently, if I go ahead and ask, uh, let's say an LLM today, how can I treat this disease? It can give me an answer that might
Mhm.
be right, that might not be so accurate. But then if I bring in information that how can I treat this disease with respect to this information, if we provide that right context to that question, then GPT or for that matter LLMs will be able to provide a more relevant response. And that's where MCP becomes, really differentiator. At first, the bigger problem we had was how it is really difficult for you to communicate with any of these third party integrations, be it Google Drive, S3, or for that matter, you take any.
Mhm.
It's always a problem
Everyone
to
has their
communicate
own
through an API.
protocol. Everyone has their own credential management
Yeah.
way of
And sometimes
integrating,
they're
etc.
yeah, and sometimes their APIs will work, sometimes it will not be as responsive. And this is where creating your own MCP servers help us. So first thing is it helps you communicate seamlessly across all these integrations through
Mhm.
that MCP client and MCP server approach. And then second is you are able to now seamlessly get that. So that is one establishment of a uniform standard. Second is getting that right set of content from now that you can seamlessly integrate, you can get right set of content to provide to your LLM.
Mhm. Okay.
And this changes the whole consumption of data to provide to LLM to get most relevant responses.
Awesome. So you mentioned you have created your own MCP servers. So basically, what kind of integrations are we talking about over here?
So Truxt servers can help you integrate with your Google Drives, your OneDrives of the world very seamlessly, which otherwise I had to build separate integrations for each.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Makes sense.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Let's quickly, I think a few things we have already spoken. I'll quickly go through it. The state of DevOps, this is how it was. In our case, the game changer, and to the whole operations industry, the game changer has been Kubernetes. The benefit of Kubernetes is it has helped you do a lot many things autonomously and automatically,
Hmm.
but the problem it has brought is complexity. Uh,
Yeah.
and this kind of complexity you cannot deal manually. This has to change. And I think you have already talked about these numbers, but so let me quickly just go through it. I think this is also very generic. Three things I would do. Um, and then with agentic AI picking up, this is how we are also working. There are different perspectives to it. And one perspective is how do you keep an eye on all the logs?
Hmm. Yeah.
all the observability system health logs. How do you keep an eye on it? How can you consume all those warnings, errors, and everything you're getting?
So even before that, like since you mentioned observability, how is this, taking a look at all the logs also related to open telemetry and the standards that are evolving over a period of time? Are they related, not related? Or I think open telemetry is more of like the producer, and then over here you are the consumer, right? You are kind of
Yep.
like consuming the logs, and then so your domain is like a little bit post generation.
I prefer that not. Um, I would prefer to consume data from already, great observability tools we have,
Okay.
from the Dyna traces of the world, from the incident reporting tools, pager duties of the world, than putting a lot of effort on building observability. But then uh, there is also a school of thought where will they be able to really produce the kind of inputs we need from a specific pod or Kubernetes cluster,
Okay.
right? So we experimented on both set of thoughts, and I'll show
Hmm.
you in a demo how this works.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
I am more of a believer of reusing something which is already existing because they have put a lot of effort in making it work. But then there are nuances and there are specific use cases where you'll find that just getting that content from observability tools and going through it to an
Hmm.
agent might not help. You might need some time more.
Okay. So basically, while you kind of like bring up the demo, my understanding over here, just to recollect, is the products and I mean, like the software that is running, right? Whatever it is, right, within the Kubernetes cluster, it's generating metrics, generating telemetry data like logs, traces, and metrics
Mhm.
that are getting sucked into these platforms like PagerDuty, Datadog, Dynatraces of the world. Now,
Yep.
these are great observability platform, but then you are actually like taking that data source out of that platforms, like whether it's Dynatrace or not, and then your agent comes into picture over here, which helps resolve that or get to that cause and analysis.
Right.
Am I am I
So
am I
there are
even
different
close?
set of
Like,
agents.
am I close to like your
Uh,
thought process at least?
exactly.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
So it's
we
not like
have an agent.
replacing Dynatrace. It's like complementing on top of it, right? That was another question
Exactly.
that is going in my mind.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
Time traces or data dogs are amazing
Right. Okay.
tools. Um, they have done a lot of hard work to get those
Sure.
metrics out. I think it's smart to consume
Got
them
it.
than
And so
creating
you're
one.
building a layer on top of it where you're building agents
Yeah,
or kind of like a GNAI platform on top of it. Perfect. Okay. Awesome.
right. And then there are, so it's like a game of not one agent. There are
Sure.
multiple agents which get into, and we are also in the process of building some more. But then there are some very basic ones. Observability is a very basic one. Troubleshooting is a very basic one. Figure out what's happening and what might be the cause. Uh, so identifying an anomaly, finding a root cause for that anomaly or for that issue. These are two basic and the most important things for
Hmm.
us. And I would like to show you a few things
Absolutely.
that might help us put some things in perspective. So first one is, for example, Argo. Argo is so continuous deployment is very close to me, and Argo is one of those solutions I like a lot. So what we have done is we have put together a curated data of Argo
Mhm.
in a collection. So this is very specific, clean set of Argo data collected it from across. And then I can now go ahead and ask any question. For example, I can, and every day, oh, I already have Slack. So let's say this is the question which is asked, and there is so much to learn from these Argo CD channels or community channels, there are so many amazing people who keep responding to the problems many people face across the globe. And let's say if this is one question which has come to my mind, what or which I'm currently facing, what I'll do is I will either ask this question in community and will wait for the
Hmm.
solution, or if I have purchased third-party support, I'll go and ask these questions there. But I think some of these questions can be very instantly answered. Uh, so let me. So this is one which is for an enterprise, but we have dedicated one for open source community as well. Anybody can go to argo.trucks.xyz,
Hmm.
and this instance is only trained on Argo data.
Okay.
So people can, if they have any question, they can directly ask. There are no charges to it, and you do not need to register. If you want, you can register, of course, but uh, people can directly go ask their question, and people can consume it.
This
And
is a very,
similarly,
very
for a link,
focused on a uh, particular domain, and the domain over here is the DevOps domain that we are talking about.
and within DevOps, Argo CD is one of the continuous
Right, right.
deployments
So this
tool.
chat bot that you're building is like a very specific to a very specific domain. It's
Yes,
not like the generic
this
chat
is
GPT or the perplexities of the world,
no,
right? That's how the differentiator.
no,
Okay,
no.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is on, and then similarly, we have created one for Linkerd. So this has Linkerd curated data in the backend, which we call here as a data source. Similarly, if somebody has a problem with Linkerd, they can. Oops. So I can take one of this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, so this is a typical
Mm-hmm.
analysis and response we have provided for this specific question. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's switch to agentic where it starts becoming
So I
different.
have
So
one more question.
this,
So I mean, just
sure.
not to kind of like question the Truxt.AI product itself, but if I simply took this question and put it into Perplexity and or ChatGPT, what is the difference, right? I mean, it will also do a search and kind of like bring in over here versus your curated data. What kind of like what is the expected difference of the response and the customer satisfaction that you feel that it will give versus a chat gpt or a perplexity?
That's that's a great question. And so I have here given a very specific answer.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The difference between perplexities or other LLMs of the world is they are consuming generic Argo CD data,
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
right? Which has issues, which has no issues. The difference is we are providing response from Argo trained model with an Argo curated, Argo clean data. So this already has a bias of
Argo.
Argo, in other
Okay,
words, I
got
can
it.
say. So if I ask the same question in ChatGPT, you will find that it gives you five
Sure.
different
Yeah.
responses.
So-
Try option one, try
Correct.
option two,
Correct.
try option three. But then there is a step further to it. And this is where, as specific we start becoming, so useful it is going to be for the SRE. So I go here and I ask the same
Uh-huh.
question. So this is the one with agent enabled. And I am going to, and I'm taking this same question.
What was the difference between the previous one and this one?
So here I have given you based on the uh, best understanding of the landscape, I have already given you the answer.
Okay.
This is how typically most of the LLMs will give
Correct.
you. They will not have the background and they will be able to give you vanilla responses. Try A, if A doesn't work, B, C, and then four or five
Absolutely.
options. And that is the problem for the end user. Which one to try first and what exactly is the problem, I cannot know. So here you may find that we have given the most relevant response, which I think based on curated Argo data. If I go here, you will find that it is not giving you an answer. It is first of all asking you a few
Hmm.
questions. So it understands, first of all, it collects all the needed information. And until it gets all that information, it will not give you
Hmm.
an answer. So you see, there's an agent DevOps to better assist. Have you confirmed that the Argo CD app is configured to ignore differences from other resources successfully? Is there any specific error message or log you're attempting when you attempt to sync that could provide additional
Hmm.
context? Provide me some of these information so that I can precisely do a root cause analysis for you, and then I can prescribe a
Correct. Yep.
solution.
So over here, you're adding a reasoning layer.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, this issue can be with a very specific version of Argo CD. How can I prescribe an answer without even knowing what
True.
version of
True.
Argo
Yeah,
CD
makes
you're
sense.
using?
Yeah.
So at this point of time, it is more about how can I get these inputs from user and then solve this problem to try to become more specific and more tailor-made solution to them.
Hmm.
But this is where the whole once we start analyzing observability data or incident or system health data, we might not need to ask these questions. Those questions already agents will have, which they will be able to provide.
Exactly, because I was actually about to ask you, because either it should be able to like fetch all this information directly from the source itself, and also like,
Right.
are you also planning to create some memory or something like that? Because tomorrow if I ask the same question, I do not want to repeat that same answer, right? That, okay, what is the version?
You have put in such an important topic. It's a game of memory, and that's so pre-required for all these things to
Mhm.
happen. And there's one reason why I love actually OpenAI ChatGPT more, because it really does a good job at that.
Okay.
So yes, it's very important. You have to have that memory. So I can provide more responses to it, and then it will be able to provide me the real prescription of this is what exactly you
Hmm.
should do.
Okay.
So I can provide actually more,
Yeah,
but
yeah, got
yeah,
it, got
I
it, got it. No,
think
this is beautiful. Okay, let's move on.
uh, I think we have 10 more minutes. And like I said, one, let's do as much postmortems as possible. And there are some very good libraries available for root cause
Hmm.
analysis, like PyRCA. There is a very good one. And by the way, I haven't shown you the Kubernetes part. So now let's look at the other side of um root cause analysis or Kubernetes cluster. So what we have, hope it works. So what we have done is we are actually uh, directly looking at a Kubernetes cluster now. And if you have any problem, we will be able to take that data out, observe
Hmm.
it, perform some root cause analysis, and then provide your solution. So let's see here. Get pods. Let's see some of the pods we already have. So I see that in my Kubernetes, I have a few pods
Hmm.
running. And here is this deployment which is not doing well. Hey, what's happening? So I can just invoke, or I can just start. So it will do an analysis of what exactly is going on.
Hmm.
And it has found that, hey, this pod looks like is not working well.
Okay.
And the error or the issue we are facing is we are trying to get an HTTP image from Docker, but we are not able to, and that's why this image is not running.
Yep.
So what should I do? Uh, Correct that name and then apply these changes. So very simple. If I just go and make that,
So this resolution, right, or I think solutions, is this coming from your DevOps GPT integration? Oh,
yes.
wonderful.
So this is another one we are doing
This
where
is
we are
amazing.
directly looking at your clusters, and I will be able to tell you what is the problem going on.
This is amazing, yeah. Because it's now you're baked
And
into
now,
that particular system itself.
yep. And I can create a new deployment and I can delete this deployment. I can just use HTTPD and it will start
Sure.
running.
Yeah, I get it.
So any all it requires is just deletion of this specific deployment and create a new one with HTTPD. So one, it did an analysis and told us that, hey, this is the reason why this is happening, and then the solution as to this is what you should do. And if you apply that new file, it will start
So
working.
how is this?
And
How
again,
is
this is
this
just on
like
level two.
running? Right? Where is your agent running? Is it running within the cluster itself, or is it like observing outside of the
Yes.
platform? Like, what is your deployment methodology of your platform within the Kubernetes cluster?
Yes. So an agent is actually running within the cluster. That's where it is getting all the information from. So this was another chain of thought we had, for which I was mentioning that not
Is it
all
sorry? Is it
data.
running as a sidecar to the platform itself? Like,
Yeah, it's just a
okay,
container, just an agent running there as a
okay,
sidecar. Yeah. And here I'm also able to get all that data, and then you can use Prometheus to get more details. But this is another instance where I was saying sometime you need to look into pods more closely to exactly figure out a
hmm,
problem.
got it.
Yeah, so that's what it does.
So this is
This was
amazing. So
another part I
basically,
wanted
you
to.
showed multiple different flavors, right? One is like an agent running within the Kubernetes cluster. So that is one, which is this one. And then the moment I'm facing a problem, you're giving solution. The other one that you showed was the chatbot kind of interface where I can take any problem on a particular domain and then ask questions and it will do the reasoning and then it will give you the answer, right? And it will ask like more
Yeah,
proactive, uh, uh, more intuitive questions so that it can get to a more better answer. And the third one that we
yeah,
talked about was the generic chatbot, which is like, okay, without the reasoning, right? So these are the three flavors we saw. You also mentioned about like MCPs and how you integrate with different other platforms. And can you go back to your chatbot?
for sure.
And I saw like a bunch of other things like integrations, collections, and stuff like that. So if you want to just quickly touch upon that one as well.
For sure. So this collection is, and so this is one difference. Generic chatbot and enterprise grade chatbots are very different. In enterprise chatbots, you need to make sure that you follow team management,
Correct.
um, knowledge libraries, different applications to integrate with, so people can directly, you know, get responses in Slack. They can invoke the bot from Slack, or for that matter, Teams, and they can directly get an answer there than coming to a chatbot and asking a
Mhm.
question. Connectors are where you can directly consume data from different places like ServiceNow, Zendesk, OneDrive, Google Drive. All these you can directly
Got
integrate
it.
with. And collection is very specific curated data sets we are creating for DevOps
Mhm.
technologies. Argo CD is one here you see. Similarly, we have created one for
Mm.
Linkerd. Argo CD and Linkerd are already being used. That's what
So
many
how
of
do I get to that? Truxt.xyz. Oh, that's an interesting Interesting last name for that particular website. I was looking at Truxt.ai. So, is there a difference Truxt.ai versus the XYZ?
Actually, no. So this is one additional domain we have taken, and this is
Okay.
what we want to open to the community for them to use.
Okay. Okay.
So anybody can go to argo.trucks.xyz. They can ask any question about Argo. Just that, make sure you have your data sources and search properly. Search is becoming very default. So you
Hmm.
can interact only with data sources, meaning don't give me any response out
Got
of
it.
Argo CD curated content you have. Don't bring me anything from search. So
Got it.
people have option to select it. Or if they want a global solution, for example, your your question might not require only Argo CD perspective, but a perspective of Kubernetes.
Got it.
Now, curated data does not has Kubernetes contents. So for
Got it.
that, enablement of search gives you a holistic answer.
But when we bring it to an enterprise, and of course, like maybe, do you guys also support like SSO and single sign on, and then because you have to connect to or your on-prem databases, right? On-prem
Yeah,
instances. Like what I see is like you have what was the other one? If you go to connectors, right? Sorry, if you go back to connectors,
sure.
I think I saw Zendesk, ServiceNow, OneDrive, and maybe you have others also, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Datadog, etc., etc. So, how do I deploy this technology within my enterprise?
So this is provided both in terms of software as a service and on-prem. So we specifically can set it up within customers' infrastructure because many customers today have a concern that their data should not be going out, and especially not to train any of those LLMs. So
Mm.
that's one form we do. And second is software as a service, where data still will be leaving on their side, just that they will be communicating to our pre-trained LLM,
Mhm.
and they'll be consuming our LLM, our collections of open
Right.
source technologies through an API. And by the way, there is one difference you might see. It's this, the one which I'm showing you right here is an enterprise version, which is app.rux.ai. And then
Okay.
you have the whole software as a service things.
Hmm.
And then the one which I'm showing you, which is .xyz, this is open for
Everyone.
anybody in the world. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. The other thing is like when you said I I can deploy it in my enterprise VPC, or
Mhm.
maybe if I have a AWS ecosystem and all, how do I deploy it? Is it like a container running within our system, or is it like, what is the deployment methodology?
Yes, this will be running in your system, so in your infrastructure altogether, including if you want an on-prem LLM like DeepSeek open source.
Maybe like
You
let's assume that I have AWS and I use Bedrock.
okay,
And Bedrock can have like any other language models, right? Doesn't matter.
right? So
Can I pick and
th-
choose?
yes, you can pick and choose.
Amazing.
See, the most important thing is why would you want to use a specific LLM? If that serves your purpose, well and good. If that does not serve your purpose, it becomes a baggage.
Yeah,
So find the trained LLM is what I will recommend you to use ours, because we have put a lot many guardrails, we have put a
sure.
lot many constraints on it to make sure it works for enterprises.
Right.
But then all the documents, all the data sets, these all can live on your side, including vector data. These all can live on your side.
So
You do
it's
not
like a
have to.
one-click deployment. You run a bunch of scripts within the container, connect to all the different data sources, whether it's a vector database, LLM or not, and then kind of like set up the whole process. Is
Right.
that
So
something like that? Okay.
yeah, this one click process will help you get the platform in, and then of course it requires communication or integrations with different data sources to get the data in. The enterprise data I'm referring to.
Yeah, correct. So that was the on-prem deployment. And are you also planning to put together, or do you already have a like a AWS marketplace where I can set this up as a self-serve, right? And no like no, going back and forth. I mean, like I manage it, self-serve manage it.
Right. That's there in our plan.
Okay,
We would love to be on AWS Marketplace.
awesome. I think this is amazing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be like super interested in this one.
Right.
We are already at time, like 9:04. uh I just wanted to make sure, like, Naveen, did you get to all the content that you had planned in your mind?
Uh, yes, very much. I
I know,
have
like, there are
happened to go
tons
through
and tons
everything.
of them, right? I mean, there are so much that you can talk about. And uh, yeah.
Yeah, I love to talk about some of these solutions which I have been building, and I'm really passionate about these. So
Awesome.
cool.
So yeah, maybe like, never know, maybe few months down the road, maybe we'll reconnect, and then we can go one level deeper. But I think this was amazing. And thanks for sharing, like, the product that you're building. And I know, like, you're super passionate, super invested in this particular um, product that you are building. So I wish you all the best, Naveen, for for all the success. You have a lot of things in your plan and a lot of things in your roadmap also. So I want to see all of those happening. So really excited to talk to you, and thank you for coming over here.
Thank you so much, Ujjwal. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.